You are 1/3 through the season now, and they broke even. Wow. I don't know if I would have predicted that about
what an enchanting life they lead.
3 weeks ago.
Or 15 games ago. They're 12-3, I think, now.
Yeah, 12
over
out of
that
the last
run.
15. Producer Chris is, bemoaning the fact that Cardinals fans are spoiled and all of that, and they're like,
I've heard some who quit on the team earlier this year. I won't name names, but I know who did.
Whoa.
Look at this now, 27-27. Look at that.
Man,
spoiled.
They're back. But we'll talk about how they did it today, and it was largely due to the fifth starter, right?
Imagine that.
Should he be the fifth starter, Andre Pallante, in his first big league start of the year? He gets the victory, throws 6 scoreless.
On the Cardinals side, Lars Nootbaar left today's game with some discomfort in his left side. Bally Sports showed a replay of him on sort of a check swing that looked a little oblique to me, Andy. He's going for an MRI in Philly. Cardinals should not, you can't lose this guy.
No.
I mean, you think about when they were struggling and about when they turned it around was when Lars Nootbaar got back into the mix and really started to play well again. He plays a good right field defensively. He is a jump starter to the lineup near the top. But I don't know, man. Anytime you look at a guy dealing with a side, that's not usually something that clears quickly. So if the MRI shows anything, Cardinals could be back in injury hell a little bit with their outfield. But by the way, I mean, that could clear the way for Jordan Walker, make his way back to the big leagues. He's got another bobblehead day coming up on June 6th. It's a theme night, but it's the Star Wars night where he's got a Jordan Skywalker bobblehead sort of concept that the Cardinals are giving away to people with theme tickets on that night. So you might want to have Jordan Walker back anyway.
That's
my injury update, though. Little awkward if he's not there for the bobblehead giveaway. But, I mean, Lars Nootbaar has been a jump starter. That's the only negative, other than maybe we could talk a little Ryan Helsley and the concern with him recently as he's kind of been going through it a little bit, even though he hasn't blown any saves. But other than that, I mean, Cardinals fans should be feeling great about the way this series played out. And Andre Pallante giving them everything they could have hoped for and then some in that start on Wednesday afternoon. 6 scoreless. His game is better suited to being a starter than it is a reliever. And I've said that for a long time. And I remember a couple weeks ago, Andy, when we were asking the question about this fifth starter and is Liberatore really the answer? And you're kind of pulling him away from a nice bullpen role. I think I first brought up and said, well, Andre Pallante is technically down there stretching out. And if you're just looking for 5 innings, 3 runs from your number 5 starter, he can give you that. And today, Andre Pallante got the nod, and he gave the Cardinals much more than that. Impressive outing by the 25-year-old right-hander.
Really good stuff. It's what the Cardinals needed exactly out of this spot today, and he gave him that, which begs the question. I mean, they're clearly trying to find someone for this role. No reason to believe that Steven Matz is going to be back anytime soon, and even then, are you really thinking that he's going to be a good option for you if he even is healthy? Because he wasn't really a great option before he got hurt anyway. Should Andre Pallante be the number 5 starter now for the Cardinals? He's a number 5 starter right now, but should he be the number 5 starter?
Well, I mean, it's not even a question. That's his spot until further notice. He's going to be the guy in that rotation spot moving forward, but 1,000%. I mean, there's not any doubt about that. He could have come out today and given them 5 innings, 3 earned runs, and I still would have said the same thing because Liberatore wasn't giving you that. And in fairness to him, he wasn't built up to give them that. But I thought this was very interesting just a few minutes ago on Bally Sports Midwest on their postgame. They got into the Cardinals visiting locker room there in Cincinnati and got a chance to talk with Pallante. And basically he said that when the Cardinals knew they were sending him down, which was a month ago, whatever it was, and he was getting optioned to AAA, Oli Marmol asked him, part of the conversation, in saying, hey, you're going down, but what would you like to do when you get there? Was basically the question. Do you want to stay going in shorter bursts so that maybe you can figure out how to have success as a reliever and you come back up and join us quickly that way? Or do you want to strengthen out, stretch out as a starter? And, maybe that's something. What's going to help you improve is what Pallante relayed was that conversation with Marmol. And he said, be honest with you, I've always felt of myself as a starter. that I'm better the more pitches I throw in a game, that I get better as I go. And to be able to stretch out would do me some good. And that's interesting. I don't know that that's an angle that I had at least seen prior to Pallante mentioning it. Because you think about it, Andy, when guys get optioned, we don't really hear from them until they come back.
No.
And then we maybe learn a little bit about what they were doing while they were gone or what the plan was. And so it was merely a footnote at the time. Yeah, Pallante is going to be stretched out. He's going to piggyback with Thompson, and then he's going to start some games of his own. And that's exactly what he did in AAA. The numbers were better, still walked the world, and still wasn't striking out too many guys, but had a 2.2 ERA in 16 innings. 13 walks, 9 strikeouts. But gets out of it, man. He gets out of jams with double plays. And wouldn't you say that Andre Pallante, you think about how the Cardinals had used him as a reliever, what would he do? He would come in when they needed a ground ball double play.
Against the lefty most of the time, right?
Against the lefty because he's got reverse splits. Great point. So what they would do is basically say, hey, Andre Pallante, somebody else made a mess. Can you come clean it up? But the problem is with a guy that, yes, he's going to get you that grounder, but he's going to be subject to some bad luck or to a fielder not making a play or whatever. You know what I mean? When you rely on balls in play and that's your whole thing, and you're coming in specifically when a ground ball that gets through the infield is going to score 1 run, maybe 2, people start to hate you really quickly when those balls find a way through. Andre Pallante's skill set, to me, is better suited to allow him to make his own mess and then work his way out of it and clean up his own mess rather than inheriting somebody else's mess and trying to fix it for them. They used him as that utility arm in the bullpen for a while. I honestly don't think you're getting the most out of his skill set doing it that way. Turns out neither did Andre Pallante. And it's interesting to hear that he sort of drove the bus on the decision. Oli Marmol said, hey, I might have some pull in this organization. What do you want to do? And then they go forward and say he wants to stretch out. That's a player with some big league service time who's getting sent down, but an organization that cares about its players says, I'm not just going to cast this guy aside. I want to make sure he's feeling like he's getting the most out of this opportunity. It's an opportunity. Yeah, you want to be in the big leagues making the big bucks, but you're going to go down and you're going to work on some things. They gave him that agency, and boy, did he ever make a good bet on himself, because now I think he's the Cardinals' 5th starter for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, he's got the opportunity for sure to take hold of that and maintain it for a while. 875 KTGR, what do you make of Andre Pallante's great start for the Cardinals today? 6 scoreless innings to give them the victory today against the Reds. Maybe the hesitation to think, whoa, okay, Andre Pallante, sure, he was good for 1 game, but it was the Reds. Maybe you need to see it a little bit more often. He's going to obviously get those opportunities with the roster being what it is. So I wonder how he then responds to another start, recovery time, getting back out there, and having a game plan against a completely different team. The next time around, he would probably start, what would it be, Houston next week for the way the days play out. I believe it would be the next time that he comes back in the rotation, should they decide to use him. So, I mean, just to go through that process, I think, of being a regular starter at the big league level, which he got his feet wet in that role some more at AAA, is how you then maybe evaluate him going forward. Because maybe you look at him and you say, okay, you're the 5th starter now, but do you end up as far as effectiveness, do you end up being any better than the guys that are already out there? So that's probably the next line of thinking, knowing that he's going to have more starts going forward based on who's available and who's not.
Yeah, and really the difference between a 5th starter and a 4th starter and a 3rd, it doesn't really matter mentally where you slot him. Clearly it's going to be number 5 because they've got 4 veterans that are going to be in that rotation, and they're looking for that other spot to see who can step in. Pallante, to me, has the makeup to do it because we've seen him do it before. In 2022, he was a starter for 9 or 10 starts and did, it wasn't perfect, but it was very number 5 starter-esque to say, look, he was 6 innings, no runs today. In the next game against Houston, when he goes 5 innings and gives up 3 or 4, that doesn't mean failed experiment. You gotta call up the next guy.
No, right. You're right.
This is your 5th spot. You just need stability from that spot. So unless he's really getting battered, I think this is going to be his job for a little while, and it's going to coincide with Steven Matz a few weeks down the road maybe is ready. What do you do there? Versus do the Cardinals look outside the organization at a trade? I think Andre Pallante showing up now is happening at the right time for the Cardinals, where they can kind of coast this out for the next few weeks and see what he can bring to the table in a role where, again, it's not doomsday every time he gives up a ground ball through the infield because he's going to, or walks somebody, heaven forbid, which he does. He walked 3 today. He's going to continue to walk guys. But the fact that he's not doomed the moment that happens, like he was when he was a reliever, I think is going to allow for him to kind of breathe a little bit and do what he does best on the mound. He also talked today in the postgame about the two-seamer really being something that, because he stretched out in AAA, he was able to work on that pitch, and now it was something that he was able to use effectively in on the hands of right-handers today. So he's not just a one-trick pony. He's not just a guy who's got reverse splits. He's been able to do some things against right-handed batters as well. I think he's in a good spot to be what the Cardinals need from that position moving forward. He's a competitive guy. The way he grinded out the 6th inning today was so impressive. Pitch count wasn't a danger, but guys were starting to see those little bleeders get through the infield. Oli Marmol stuck with him and was rewarded for doing it as the Cardinals got him through 6 clean.
It's really good stuff from the Cardinals all around, but particularly Andre Pallante today with how he navigated through those 6 innings and kept the Reds off the scoreboard. Give us your thoughts on Andre Pallante, 875-KTGR to call or text us here on the show as we talk about the Cardinals winning their 12th game in the last 15 and getting back to 500. I mean, we also talked to, you mentioned it a little bit. Are we a little worried about Ryan Helsley after this shaky appearance? He got through it. He got the save.
Got through it, but
they stacked
it was shaky against the Cubs.
They stacked up the leverage guys for this game because they know they have the off day tomorrow and that they could use whatever they needed to get this victory here. And
honestly, they kind of didn't, though. I'm going to stop you there. It was weird to not see JoJo Romero, and I haven't seen anything post-game as to why.
They used Kittredge and Helsley.
Yeah, Kittredge and Helsley they used, but Pallante went 6, and the initial guy in the 7th was Leahy,
right.
And when he didn't pan out, then it was John King, and not JoJo Romero, the other, your prime lefty. Hopefully there's not an injury, but they are looking at that schedule going, after tomorrow's off day, you don't have but 2 off days the entire month of June.
Yeah.
July 1st is going to be, and one of those days is traveling back from Birmingham, Alabama, which I don't know what the flight situation is there. Obviously, they've got team charters and everything. It's just going to be a little bit, it's going to be a little bit different.
It's not.
So they know they're going to need those guys rested. But you look at the last week prior to today, 2 of the 7 days is all that JoJo, Kittredge, and Helsley had pitched. It was that Cubs series. All 3 of them threw in both games. But yeah, they did know that they've got this off day tomorrow. I was just kind of curious the way they handled stretching Pallante an extra inning, panned out. Ollie was rewarded for that. Heck of I don't know if that's his death ball or the knuckle curve that Pallante throws, but got a check swing strikeout in the 6th inning on that, and then got the pop-up of Jake Fraley to end the inning. But then you went with 2 of your kind of the B team, as we've called them in the bullpen, in Leahy and John King to navigate the 7th, and then you went Kittredge, Helsley on the way out. But yeah, I would say I am a little bit worried about Helsley because when you look at sort of the way that outing played out for him, it was very similar to what we saw over the weekend against the Cubs, where he's not really throwing very many fastballs. It's like he's got a little bit of a lack of confidence in the fastball. Fastball is usually his predominant pitch, but he almost was pitching backwards in this outing, counting him up here. He still threw a decent number of them, 8 or 9, but tons of sliders as well, to where it was maybe even more than 50% of the non-four-seam fastball category per StatCast here. And that's what was going on against the Cubs, where they were wondering, is he tipping the fastball, and that's why he's staying away from it. I don't know, man. It's just like he's lacking a little bit of confidence in being able to place that fastball where he wants it right now. But isn't it great to ask a question of, like, are you concerned about Helsley? Be able to say, yeah, kinda, but then realize that his last 3 games that have been a little bit troublesome, he hasn't blown a single save. Like, they've been able to get away with it and win these games as he's working through something. That's something that it just tells you the Cardinals are firing on all cylinders.
Yeah,
right
he's
now.
gotten the job done. I guess that's the way that you could describe it in the situation that's been
which is a fact
dealt for.
Like
yeah, sure. I get
they've gotten away with it. Is what I'm saying.
They've gotten away with it.
That is a little bit dicey right now.
Every situation is going to be different, though, right? It's like if he comes into a 1-run game instead of a 3-run game, then we're talking differently today.
But I've seen closers that lose their stuff, lose the 3-run lead too.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals are getting away with a period right now where emphatically Ryan Helsley is not 100% himself with whatever the reason for it is. Hopefully they diagnose and figure out and get him back on track. But the fact that they haven't lost a game, normally what happens when a closer hits the wall, the manager leaves him out there through it all, even if it's a 1-run lead, 3-run lead, whatever it is, because they're like, that's my best guy. If we're going to lose a game, we're going to lose with him on the mound. And then usually those teams lose with that guy on the mound because the blow-up happens and it ends in a walk-off home run. Helsley hasn't had that. So to be able to still be winning games while your all-star caliber closer is kind of going through it is a testament to just how many things are going right for the Cardinals right now. Like, they did not play a perfect game today. There were a lot of different ways that this one could have gotten away from him, but they're locking down even those games when you could look around and find reasons to think they wouldn't. That's how you get back to 500 as quickly as they did after that 7-game losing streak.
Yeah, and it's been a good, solid job by everyone top to bottom. I mean, just to have the contributions that you got today from guys like Matt Carpenter, who homered for the first time in 3 years in a Cardinals uniform, I believe was the stat that I saw.
April 2021, yeah.
Oh, gosh. I guess I'm old. But he's old,
yeah, he's
too.
been gone for a couple years before this year, but he didn't homer that year either, much at all,
right.
The last year in St. Louis.
That was the year that everybody was, why is he still here? Why? Well, he's hitting the ball hard. That's why. He's still
now he's back. So now, deal with it.
He's back at 718 OPS. 718 is higher than I expected.
Make him stay mad
from Matt
he's
Carpenter
also
this year.
He's probably had like 20 at-bats. Like, it's not been a very large sample size. And when
How
you hit
many
a home run...
at-bats for Matt Carpenter this year? Let's see.
I'm going to guess 20.
Oh,
it hasn't been many.
It's been more than 20. 36.
Okay.
36 at-bats this year. Man.
Well, nevertheless, get that contribution. And here's the other part of it. It's not that I was questioning, like, okay, they're not going to JoJo here, or they're not going to Kittredge as early as I thought. I knew those guys hadn't pitched recently, but the fact that the numbers really were 2 times in the past week for all 3 of the triumvirate that I call them at the back of the Cardinal bullpen, Kittredge, JoJo, and Helsley, I thought for sure it would just line up 7, 8, 9, and that would be the way that they would do it tonight, or this afternoon, rather. And when it wasn't that, I was just kind of racking my brain going, okay, they're really trying to ride the rail and get away with this by saving those guys, knowing that it's going to be a grueling stretch coming up. And they had some danger. Like, you give up 1 run in the 7th inning, but the Cardinals kept answering. That was the thing that I don't think you could have expected if you did it that way 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Oli Marmol might have said, or like in the midst of that 7-game skid, if they had a late lead to try and stop it, if that situation had arisen, I think Oli would have gone directly to the formula of Romero, Kittredge, Helsley to say, we've got a late lead, we have to win this game. Well, they've had better luck recently, and they're pushing their luck a little bit by saying, not only do we believe in some of the second-tier bullpen guys that have been going for us recently, but we also believe in the offense to keep adding on in a way that you would not have had faith in them to do so a handful, whatever it was, 15, 16 games ago when they were in the middle of that long losing skid. So that's just another example of things going right for the Cardinals right now.
So, we'll see if they can take their shot against the Phillies. That's a very interesting series coming up. That obviously the Cardinals on a hot streak, but the Phillies are a different animal, and I'm interested to see how they go up against that type of team on the road and try to keep this going.
Yeah, it just continues to be test after test for the Cardinals. You come into that last homestand, and the Orioles are part of that, and they're one of the top teams in the American League. Cardinals sweep them, and that was on the heels of a couple of series wins against Boston and the Angels. And then you say, hey, the Cubs, that's a big challenge. Divisional rival ahead of us in the standings. Cardinals handled the 2 games they play against Chicago, and then you go on the road to the Reds. I think we all knew Monday was going to be a tough ask after having the late start to Sunday night's game and traveling into Cincy. The offense was sluggish. Then the next 2 days, though, we have seen this offense kind of continue to be that steady drumbeat, and the Cardinals basically steal a series that I think after Monday it would have been a little bit difficult to envision how they do that. The unknown of your 5th starter coming into Wednesday, didn't announce it until Tuesday's game ended, and then to be able to win the Gibby start on Tuesday, they're in a great spot right now. So what's one more test, Andy? I think that might be the mindset of this Cardinals team. It was not that long ago that we were basically saying, hey, you lose 7 straight. It's going to take a long time to climb back to 500. You almost just have to accept that. But the Cardinals haven't lost a series since, and they did it in a matter of 15 games. They were 9 games below, and in a matter of 15 games, they snapped that skid and are right back at 500 with hopefully some helium and some room to grow. Obviously, that Phillies series is going to be a big test.
I mean, I can still understand people's skepticism because we saw a similar run like this last year after they dug a hole and they were unable to sustain it into June and July. And so that ultimately doomed their chances. So I get it. You have to make this the series where that energy doesn't get deflated too much. I mean, even if you win one, I still think there's a way that you can make sure that doesn't completely derail you from what you've been able to put together over the last 2 weeks or so. Because the Phillies are a good team. They're gonna be better than you most days. So I still think they can find a way, despite not winning that series, to keep up what they've been doing well.
You mean even if they don't beat the Phillies, you could still sort of have that mindset?
They don't beat them 2 out of 3. They can still keep this on.
You don't have to say season's over. And again, that's what this recent run has allowed for them, because one loss or one series loss is not going to tank the season, whereas there was a time where it felt like it might have. And you mentioned last May they did go on a run and improve. They were 14 games below 500 after Saturday, May 6th, and the Cardinals climbed to about 6 games below 500 on May 21st. That's as close as they ever got, though. The Cardinals didn't fall as far this time as they did last year, and so I think that could end up being the difference. They didn't dig as deep of a hole. They stopped the skid. They plugged up the holes in the boat before it got real bad, and boy, did they ever do it just in the nick of time, because now I think you do have a fresh outlook on what the season could bring.
Interested to get producer Chris's thoughts on what we were talking about yesterday, the hypothetical trade that we put together between the Royals and the Cardinals.
You're going to love it. We realize that they need, now before Pallante, number 5 starter extraordinaire, the Cardinals and Royals needed different things. Yeah. Cardinals need a number 5 starter. Royals need some outfield help. So Andy had a really good idea. That's all.
Daniel Lynch for Dylan Carlson.
Dylan Carlson.
What do you think? Yes or no?
Don't look at his stats either.
Who says no?
And
I'm not.
Right, yeah.
Don't look at him play right field today.
Don't look at stats. Don't look at information. Just decide, yes or no.
Even if I did ignore all of that, I think I'd still say no. I feel like I need a little bit more juice for that, honestly.
See, that's where I was kind of at. I think Daniel Lynch maybe outweighs Dylan Carlson a little bit.
Oh, I think he probably does at this point. But Daniel Lynch, tell me, Chris, why isn't he on the Royals? They just have 5 starters that are too good to have him have a spot.
They're just too good.
He's in the minors. I mean, that's the one thing I would say is, like, he's in the minors. He's not really lighting it up in the minors. But that's okay. I don't really care about AAA stats anymore until they have the same strike zone requirements in MLB and AAA. When it comes to pitchers, I almost just ignore them. Like, are you getting completely beat to hell? No? Okay. Then if you're an ERA at 4.5, 4.7, that's good enough to where I feel like it wouldn't shock me if you came up and did well. And that's where Daniel Lynch is right now.
Because then you have a major league catcher trying to steal strikes for you. And the game's changed, right? Yeah.
And a bigger strike zone, frankly.
Yes.
Because I think the strike zone AAA with the ABS, they're calling it smaller, and then when they go to review to say, hey, was it a ball, was it a strike, it's smaller than it is at the big league level. The top of the zone basically disappears. So it's harder to pitch in AAA, not the competition of it. The rule set is honestly a little bit more difficult.
But it's advantage hitter, and so I agree with you that it's a much different. And Daniel Lynch, when he came up to the big leagues, did pretty well.
Had a good outing
in this one spot start that he's had so far this year.
And a relief appearance.
Yeah.
And a relief appearance. My question for Chris then. You're not into Dylan Carlson, and that's fine. I joked, don't look at his stats because his OPS is like 375 in limited duty this year. And also, he came in for the injured Newt Barr in right field this afternoon for the Cardinals, and immediately as the ball goes away, he bobbles it, and then the throw, I mean, it was like producer Chris threw the ball. I don't even know what happened. Eventually, cheap shot. I know. Can you throw? I don't know. That was maybe a cheap shot.
Who said I can't?
Under the bus.
I just base all of your athletic endeavors off of what I've seen on the golf course, and that maybe that's not a fair comparison.
Seattle, that's
John
fair.
Daly can golf.
There's at least yeah, that's true.
Oh, I've seen him. Can he throw a baseball?
You know what? I bet he has thrown out the first pitch at like a Arkansas Naturals game or something.
Peanut M&Ms in one hand.
The highest profile game that John Daly's
I don't know. He's from Arkansas, right? They don't have pro ball there.
He strikes me, John Daly.
I'm sure there was a major league team out there that said, "Oh, John Daly is in town. Let's have him throw the first pitch." Like, I'm sure there was.
I
at
guess
least
first pitch for Arkansas baseball. Do they do that? First pitches in college?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
I don't
of course
know.
they do.
Let me do a little bit of checking because
like
I feel like
I feel in Little Rock.
He's thrown a first pitch out at a Cardinal game. For some reason, I feel like John Daly is maybe like a Cardinals partial.
Yeah,
could that be?
He's got to be. Yeah,
I don't know why that is.
I mean, what else were they playing in Arkansas?
Right. I mean, there's plenty of Cardinal fans down there, right?
Yeah, that would generally be, and that's where you get the crossover too, like the folks that are Arkansas Razorback fans,
and Cardinals
but also
fans.
Cardinals fans. So get this, guys. He had a first pitch. I'm watching the video now. I'll try to think of a way to, if we can share this at KTGR Big Show. Ryan Franklin, former Cardinals closer, was the catcher of the first pitch. So that must have been a number of years ago. But he tried to throw it over, not only over the catcher catching the pitch, but over the netting. He just tried to nuke it all the way over, and I don't think he got it quite over the netting, but put a lot of oomph behind it. So John Daly can throw a baseball. That is the report back that I'll give you here in real time.
Stamp it.
But here's my question for Chris. Royals outfield, who you feel good about, and who are you kind of punt them off the bridge, send them down, get them out of here, whatever. What are your thoughts? Because if you look at those numbers, it's just been really rough for anybody they've trotted out into the outfield this year.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad. I don't know. I guess you kind of keep MJ Melendez around because he's still got that threat of power. Not really seeing much.
You're
of that.
hoping it comes back for those guys.
Yeah,
guys like him.
Yeah, might as well just come back. Velasquez, I think he's still got some power there. He's a guy who can I don't know, go and we can hit 3 homers at some point. So I feel pretty okay about him. I could care less about Hunter Renfroe. I suppose you could toss him to the curb. I think, and I wouldn't miss him too much.
That'd be a tough one. You're basically cutting him for good because you signed him to a free agent deal. I don't know if he has options left or anything.
Oh no,
One-year
tragic.
contract?
Sorry, man.
Hunter Renfroe.
1 year deal. I hope only 1 year for Hunter Renfroe.
I
think it was
so.
It was 1 year with an option for
Probably.
Okay.
That
one
sounds
of
right.
those.
Yes.
Nope. 2 year, $13 million guaranteed.
All right.
Oh, okay.
All right. That's fine.
That's looking a little bit
Money's
rough
not
right
real
now.
baseball. Who cares?
A little bit. I mean, again, there's options. There could be a spot for some outfielder out there in the trade market that eventually becomes available that I think the Royals need to maybe make sure they're in on.
I'd call Drew Waters up sooner than later. He might not be good, but get another look at him if he's been playing well in AAA. Keep mixing and matching. They'll find it, but I do think you could just stand to, hey, what are the top 3 or 4 outfielders, rental outfielders on the block come July? Get one of those guys and maybe infuse a little boost to that offense.
875-KTGR. To call or text us.
Tommy Pham is actually a great call.
It could be a
like
very
that
good.
call.
It's that is where the list ends for me. It's they probably
be
won't
perfect.
because it's in the Central. I don't think the White
Yeah,
At
Sox
least
play
guys
with
that are available now, you never know. There could be teams that drop out of it and then they start to sell. Royals just got to be ready for whoever that team ends up being. So we'll see. By the way, Brenden, you had some fear about Lars Nootbaar. I don't know if this maybe helps a little bit, but Lynn Worthy, who covers the team for Post-Dispatch, said he felt something on his side after he beat out the infield single, stayed in and ran the bases, but Oli Marmol said they took him out because they didn't want him to play through it.
Yeah, but I also saw John Denton say he's getting an MRI in Philly.
Oh, okay.
So I don't feel better anytime the notion of an MRI is mentioned. And we kind of jinxed ourselves because this past week we told Will Carroll, what was this, yesterday? We said, hey, not much going on for the Cardinals. Well,
and sure enough,
now Lars Nootbaar, we'll see on him. And they get the off day tomorrow, so if it's minor, maybe he doesn't even miss a beat. But if you're getting the MRI, which I believe I saw from John Denton, then that's not great news. Speaking of MRIs, I think Keenan Middleton might be cooked, like Tommy John cooked. He tried to battle back from the forearm strain, and the forearm is connected to the elbow, and it always turns into, whether it's the repair surgery or the full UCL or whatever it ends up being, it's always something. So I am a little bit concerned about Keenan Middleton. Actually, I'm a lot of bit concerned. I don't think we see him anytime soon. Maybe not ever as a Cardinal. I can't remember if he pitched. I can't remember if it was a 1 year or 2 year contract he signed in free agency. I think it was maybe just one, but that's going to, I mean, if it's a full blown Tommy John, then that's kind of sayonara. 1 year, $6 million. So that money will spend good.
Darn. Yeah.
I was excited to see what he could bring. Honestly, he's a good personality. Would have added a nice element to the bullpen. I just don't know if they're going to get a chance to see him. He might be hurt.
Well, we'll see if there's good news on that front for both Nootbaar and for Middleton for those two MRIs. Nice.
Did you know that it was Super Joe McEwing that has the longest hit streak for a Cardinal rookie in team history?
Yeah.
25 games.
Yeah, and Walker was chasing that last year.
Right, didn't obviously get there, but
didn't quite get there. But and Mason Wynn could be on his way. We'll see. But that was some good stuff, and I hope with the way that Mason Wynn's been hitting, yes, it's been no matter what spot in the lineup. I like him in the leadoff role. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just it fits him. I think it fits him,
but I also do think it fits Brennan Donovan. I think either of them. Yeah. Here's what you could do, though. I'm going to be like, I don't like to see, even though they said it was largely precautionary with Nootbaar, if it was, why'd you let him still run the bases? Like, I really don't understand why they came out and checked him on first base and he said he's okay. I think they then got a look or got word from the video room of the replay that showed, hey, we might have missed it, but during his at-bat, he kind of grimaced and probably should have been pulled right then and there if they had noticed. I don't know how easy or difficult that would be to notice. Obviously, after a guy is coming up gimpy, you can say, oh, look at the play before where he was hurt. I think, honestly, for Nootbaar, it could end up with an IL stint. I hope I'm wrong. But if it does, I'm going Wynn and Donovan 1-2 in the lineup, no questions asked. Like, that would be the move that you make.
That would be a good
move.
You
put both of them up there if you don't have Nootbaar. So hopefully they don't have to resort to that, and they can continue to have a luxury of a true leadoff caliber guy batting 8th or 9th. But if that does come to fruition, that would be the way that I would handle it.
Yeah, I mean, could be an interesting way to figure it if, in fact, Nootbaar has to miss some time. But and it's nothing against Brendan Donovan. I just think, I think it's everything for Mason Wynn. So, again, we'll see how they work it.